Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk to you about the Atomstack X20 Pro laser engraver. Now I had this machine for just over 2 weeks now, and I only got to play around with it over the weekends because my day job just took up too much of my time. But I really enjoy using the machine now. I mean, I have A5 before, and the limitation of the limited power and is really kind of limited the possibility of what it can do. But with four idle laser stacking on top of each other, it's a lot more powerful and cutting is a lot faster. So that means that I can test out a lot of material in a much shorter period of time. I also make some modification to my setup. So I started with something like, don't know if you can see it, like this. So I have a metal plate and then a mesh on top. You can see that it's warping because of all the heat and stuff like that. So I kind of changed to a different cutting bed. So I still go with the cheap option. I didn't buy a honeycomb or anything like that. So I went to Amazon and bought something like a metal cooking tray. And also a kind of a drying grid. And you can see I put magnet on the bottom there. So when I put it onto the metal tray, so it kind of makes the metal tray rigid. And I find this a lot easier to use in my enclosure because then I can actually, after cutting, I just lift the whole thing out. So all that bits and pieces kind of fall inside the tray. And if I need to readjust, it's much easier to readjust as well. I even draw the outline of the tray into the base of my enclosure. Then I can readjust it quite easily. This one here, I think is made of steel. Obviously the magnet do stick to it, which is a bonus. My go-to thing is a 3mm plywood, which is this one here. I get them from Amazon cheap, so it's good to cut out stuff. With my A5 I do struggle a little bit. You need to have air assist. The wood have to be perfectly straight. But what I find with the X20 Pro is that even if the wood is a bit warped, it will just cut through it because of the focusing dot is much smaller throughout a longer distance, so it's a lot more forgiving. So even if I don't focus it perfectly, it still come out like really good results. So this one here, I use 300mm per minute and 90%. Now I don't use 100% because people say it will ruin the laser and stuff like that. So I think 90 is okay, but I can actually drop down the speed and then reduce the percentage as well, but I want to cut it quick. So 300 is what the speed I use, and it can cut through in one pass. If I bring closer to the camera, it does give you some really good detail. And it just the cutout just falls through the grid. So I'm really impressed with this compared to the A5. Paper, this one I think is 8,000 millimeter per minute at 35% and one pass. So yeah, I'm really chuffed about cutting that, but A5 can do that as well, so there's no difference there. This is a little sign I make for my front door. I'm going to use some double-sided tape and tape it on because they never press my bell, they just knock on the door. My video doorbell is there for a purpose, for delivery driver. So this one here, the cut itself is 300mm per minute and 90% in one pass, just like this one. Because once I get to know the cutting power, I'm quite comfortable with that setting. The engraving, so you can see the brown color. The brown color is all burn mark. So basically, the engraving the picture, so they burn away the wood and leave behind the font untouched. And this one was done at the speed of 9,000mm per minute at 75%. I can't remember the time of this one, but a lot quicker than the A5. Now this one is interesting. Without the enclosure and for your health, I wouldn't cut plastic, but I have an enclosure and everything get pumped outside to my garden, so I should be quite safe. So this is a food packaging. So this is like a Chinese dumpling plastic tub thing. It say here, let me see, I don't even know what this is made of. I know it's made of plastic. But it has here a recycle logo and it say PEHD. So for those chemists out there, if you know what this is made of, put in the comment section. It say here dishwasher safe, And I did a few test cuts, and then finally I go with this setting, which works really well. So this is plastic and is 1 millimeter thick. Yeah, and I use a speed of 2000 millimeter per minute at 90%, one pass. So exactly the same design or shape cut out file, whatever you call them. So here, and it can cut that out. So now, instead of just recycling all my food packaging, I got some other things that I can make use of with the laser engraver. So cut plastic fine, it does create a lot of smoke, but with the X20 Pro, what I find is it creates a lot of smoke no matter what you try to cut. The air assist is so strong that it blows all the smoke in all directions and through the cut, which is a good thing. But without an enclosure, what you will find is that there's just smoke everywhere. When you try to cut like 300 millimeter per minute at 90%, it creates so much smoke, it's just unreal. Sometimes my GoPro in there, when recording, it just record nothing, it just smoke. So make sure you have an enclosure and good ventilation. If you want to do it outside, by all means do it outside. Another interesting thing, I think this really opened up possibility for me, because I am a heavy 3D printing person. So I have lots of filament wheels or spools. I never really know what to do with them. In fact, I chuck away a lot to the recycle bin. So I was playing around with the X20 Pro. The A5 just melts, the top doesn't do anything to it. But with the X20 Pro, I managed to get some good results. So as you can see, I tried to cut out the same shape of my test print, just like the 3mm plywood. Now this one here is 4 millimeters thick, and the thickest part is actually 5 millimeters on the rim. But anyway, it cuts through. You can see that after a few tests, I managed to get the setting right. So I use 150 millimeter per minute at 90% at one pass, and it can create the same effect as the plywood. Let me bring closer the camera. I don't know if you, I think when it catches the light, then it's really good. So yeah, obviously it's not big enough to cut that 10 by 10 size. So that's why it's still attached to the middle part of the wheel. But you can see, you know, the detail is just fantastic. All the curve and stuff like that. Again, this one needs a bit of cleaning up. So, you know, a bit of the plastic gets stuck on the side. So not everything just come out straight away. But I think if I change the power or setting a bit, I can get it even cleaner. But it is usable. So, you know, all this like extra plastic plastic filament holder, I have a new use for it. And the other thing is, like, you know, this particular one come with some checker pattern on top, and it makes some really interesting cutout. For example, this one here, the X20 Pro cut this out very quickly. So one side you have that texture thing on the plastic, and the other side is smooth. And all the cut edge is not just melting. I mean, it actually cuts through pretty well, I think. And of course, if you have a Superman, then you do have to have a you have the Black Knight to go with it, right? So yeah, I mean, it opens up so much possibility. The next step for me is to try and find some metal for engraving. So if I show you the back of this metal tray, because I was trying to do a grid on my tray so that when I put stuff on it, it can align quite easily. So I did a test cut on my baking tray here. And you can see that there is a cross here because I tried to draw two lines going through the middle. So this is the middle of the cut bed, which is 200 X and 200 Y. If I bring it closer to camera, you can see something quite interesting. The light reflects differently. So it's not just a line, it actually created a crease on the metal surface. So this is what engraving metal, I guess, will be look like. So it didn't, how do I say, it didn't just change the color of the coating, but it actually created a groove. So after that, I've done some testing. I tried to, like, you know, run through it. So I think this one was a 300 300 millimeter per minute at 90% one pass, and then it cuts a line like this and creating a crease on the metal. I did try like 5 pass, 6 pass, 7 pass. It doesn't cut through or anything like that. It just created a burn mark, a wider burn mark. And after 5 or 6 passes, the burn mark actually shows on the other side, but it doesn't show like, you know, cutting or anything like that at all. So I think my next step to test the machine is to find something really thin of a stainless steel and try to cut that. Maybe I can show you guys the results next time. Thank you very much for watching my video. If you find my information useful, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to my channel. And I can't wait to see you next time with more interesting gadgets. Bye bye.